Tim Gibbs.
Oh, Tim, hi. How are you, sir?
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Are you our backup host tonight?
No,
Well, every time I see you, you're hosting one of these Zoom meetings somewhere. So
yeah.
nice.
COVID-19 has brought that out in me.
Yes, your presence here is almost in miniature on my screen. So I see who you are, and I see the Delaware. What does it say? Academy of Medicine.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
In miniature is where I should be.
I hope not.
So our actual host, gentleman, for the evening is going to be Mr. Williams, and I think he's going to be kicking us off soon. I just saw that we are live streaming on Facebook. So from this point forward, I think we're going to ask everyone to remute in anticipation of Mr. Williams taking us into the program.
Awesome. I am muted.
All right. So we'll go ahead and get started. I first want to start with Laura. If you're on the line, if you could just give us some housekeeping rules, and then we'll get this thing going.
Good evening and welcome to Fame Inc.'s In on Equity, a virtual town hall with Delaware's Legislative Black Caucus. My name is Laura Kennedy. I'm the Executive Administrator here at Fame Inc. We'd like to thank everyone for logging in tonight and start with a few guidelines for engagement. We've muted everyone upon entry, so there's no interference during presentations. To keep the town hall moving smoothly, we've designated time for a Q&A. At the bottom of the screen, there's a chat box. Please submit any questions or comments in the chat. Time permitting, we will get to as many as we can. We will follow up with any unanswered questions via email, so please send your contact information along with your question. And we'd love to know who is engaging with us tonight. So even if you do not have a question, please leave your name, email, and affiliation in the chat and specify if you are a FAME alum. You can also visit famedelaware.org/alumni to submit your contact information to stay engaged. And finally, if you'd like more information about FAME, please visit our website at famedelaware.org. From there, you can access information about our history, programs, In on Equity campaign, and more. You can also fill out our contact form to join our mailing list. Once again, thank you for joining us tonight. We hope you enjoy the evening.
All right. Thank you, Laura. And good evening, everyone. My name is G. Stephen Williams. I'm a proud FAME alumni. I am also the president and CEO of the Bonneman Group, Delaware's first and only Black-owned government relations firm. On behalf of my client, FAME Incorporated, and the over 10,000 households they serve throughout our great state, I'd like to again welcome you to In on Equity, a virtual town hall with the Delaware Legislative Black Caucus. I'd like to thank our co-chairs, Senator Elizabeth, more affectionately known to us as Tizzy Lockman, Representative Nnamdi Chukwucha, and their staffs for helping make this event possible. 2020 has been a challenging year for our nation and state alike. Amidst the coronavirus pandemic, we find ourselves once again embroiled in a battle to, as what the late Representative John Lewis once said, redeem the soul of our nation. Challenges centered around racial, social, and economic injustice and inequality have reemerged as constant reminders that we have yet a ways to progress if we are to become that more perfect union our forefathers envisioned us to be. With that being said, one of the most important ways we can overcome these challenges and bridge these inequitable gaps permeating our society is by preparing and motivating our children and young adults with a quality education and the essential skills to support the world's ever-evolving economic ecosystem. Fortunately for the state of Delaware, for over 40 years, FAME has worked tirelessly to meet this challenge, developing some of our brightest scientists, engineers, inventors, and in the case of FAME alumni like Senator Darius Brown, public servants who have committed themselves to improving the quality of life for all and promoting equality. This evening, you will learn more about FAME's rich history in Delaware, the educational and workforce support services they provide to households throughout the state, and how they are leading the way in supporting Delaware students and families in the post-COVID-19 era. I'd like to take a moment to introduce the members of the Delaware Legislative Black Caucus. Tonight we have with us the chairman of the Delaware Legislative Black Caucus, former FAME alumni, and state senator representing Delaware's 2nd Senatorial District, State Senator Darius Brown. Thank you for joining us. The vice chairwoman of the Delaware Legislative Black Caucus, representing Delaware's 3rd District, my home district, State Representative Sherry Dorsey Walker. Thank you for being with us. The founder of the Delaware Legislative Black Caucus, representing Delaware's 2nd District, State Representative Stephanie Bolding. Representing Delaware's 1st District, our co-chair, and famed State Representative Nnamdi Chukwucha. Thanks for being here. Representing Delaware's 3rd Senatorial District, our gracious co-chair, State Senator Elizabeth Tizzy Lockman. Representing Delaware's 5th District, State Representative Kendra Johnson. Representing Delaware's 16th District, State Representative Franklin Cook. And last but certainly not least, representing Delaware's 17th District, State Representative Melissa Minor Brown. Thanks for joining us, Mimi. And thank you all for joining us and the great work you're doing in Dover on behalf of our communities. I'd like to pass it all over to our co-chairs, Senator Lockman and Rep. Chukwucha, for some opening remarks.
Representative Chukwucha, would you like to kick us off? Nope. There you go.
I'd just like to thank FAME on behalf of the Delaware Legislative Black Caucus. I know this was a great opportunity that we missed due to COVID. We wanted to have you down at Legislative Hall for this session. So it's great to be able to finally reconnect, to hear more about FAME and to just share the joy that you are to our city of Wilmington and definitely to the 1st District. Such a gem that we believe that there's more people learn more about the great work that you're doing. It's not just beneficial for the 1st District and for the city of Wilmington, but through Newcastle County and honestly statewide. We believe that this effort can be replicated and that the type of services that you provide are needed in every county throughout our state. We're glad to be a part of this today, to co-host the event and just to put you on our shoulders and do what we can to make sure that the support that is needed for your organization as a caucus, that we do our best to lobby and bring the resources that can help you forward.
Absolutely. And I agree with everything the representative has said. I think I can speak for all the members of the caucus. I think all of our lives have been touched by FAME in one way or another. I wasn't the student who was tapped for FAME, so that can tell you a lot about my math and science skills, but my sister was. So I remember hearing a lot about it growing up and have had taken such pleasure in seeing how FAME has continued to evolve with its decades of history and visiting the new site on Baynard Boulevard and all the potential and possibilities that are there. It's just really an honor as a senator who's so interested in education, but particularly equity in education and making sure that we're providing our Black and Brown students in the state of Delaware with all the resources that they need to support an organization that's been right in there doing that for longer than many of us can even remember. So I'm pleased to be able to support you and to hear more about you and make sure others hear more about you. It's such a time where we are just so focused on closing those equity gaps however we can for the delivery of education to our students, particularly in STEM areas, and also to really looking to our young people and you all who have been mentors to them in helping us find solutions through the types of innovations that you study to help us solve the problems that are particular to our communities. And I think that's something that we talked about a lot, that Don and I talked about when I walked through the space. And it's just a very thrilling prospect. And even though we're not physically together, I look forward to talking about how FAME is the perfectly designed organization to step into that gap. So thank you so much for allowing us to chair tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Senator Lockman and Representative Chukwucha. Now we'd like to share a short video introducing you to some of our students from FAME.
Can't hear anything.
I think we're having some.
Can I hear anything?
Yeah, we're having a little audio difficulties. Bear with us.
Laura?
You know, we test these things 10, 15 times, and of course it happens. If someone would just send Laura a message, we'll start it over. I think we've got enough time to be able to get it restarted.
Maybe it's tricky, but they were holding signs, which was really helpful. So
Bear with us.
Everything worked perfectly during the run through, of course.
it does.
Not
Laura,
working,
there's still no sound.
I'll tell you what, if we need to, we'll try to come back as she solves. Situations like this, I think, are situations where we learn who we are, and we all have grit and determination. So we'll keep going, Stephen, and we'll see if we can pop back.
Awesome. Thanks, Don. Well, if you could go ahead and just enlighten us with some history about FAME, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, my name is Don Baker. I'm the CEO of FAME Incorporated, formerly known as Forum to Advance Minorities in Engineering. It is an absolute pleasure to see so many wonderful names on this list, but I have to begin by thanking all of our legislators. This event, again, was meant to be in person. It was meant to be a time for FAME to go down to Dover and share our story. But as we all know, we were hit with some unprecedented situations, the pandemic, and then on the back of the pandemic, we have certainly faced social challenges within this country. When I reflect on FAME and I reflect on from whence we come, a lot of our beginnings were at times of challenge. And had it not been for people like a Dr. Fleming, had it not been for people like a Gilbert Sloan and others from DuPont Corporation, from ExxonMobil and some of those other organizations that wanted to see a shift. And they wanted to see a shift in their workforce, and they wanted to see a shift in innovation. And that is a part of our history. That is from whence we come. That is certainly the genesis of FAME. And today, where we stand is a little bit different than where we were. So our mission has been to motivate and inspire students, specifically focused on females and underrepresented minority populations, African Americans, Latinos, and Native American populations mainly, but we serve all students. And the goal originally was a goal to encourage students to pursue at that time a STEM degree, primarily looking at engineering and the sciences. And we wanted them to pursue that degree and complete that degree so that they could go into what we felt was a quality career path. And that was something that was vital. It was important. It remains important for us, but we have shifted. And there has been a shift for us. And there's a reason for this shift. And I think today is a wonderful time for us to consider and continue to consider shifts that need to happen. And that shift was going from only focusing on college as a path forward for individuals, for the individuals that we serve. We've shifted to understand as an institution that as we talk about being in on equity, we internally need to be looking at opportunities for those students who don't have a 3.0, for those students who might not be great at math, Senator Lockman, but it's okay because look where we land, look where we come. I'm very proud of my history with FAME. I'm very proud to be a FAME alum myself. And as the leader of this organization, having colleagues, many of you, corporations, who understand that today we are faced with a pipeline problem. And that pipeline problem has to be addressed by looking at college, upskilling, looking at career paths that are maybe certifications, stackable credentials, and all of those things have been a part of what we now do. So our vision as an organization is really simple. If you walk away with three simple things from this organization, please remember this: FAME inspires career confidence. That's what we do. That's what we're about. We've been doing it for close to 45 years, and we hope to do it for close to another 45 years as we move forward. So we thank you all for being here. You're going to hear a lot about what we do. And just remember this, that the equity piece is critical to our growth as a nation. It is important to innovation that we have as much equity for the right reasons at this very right time. With that, I believe we're now going to provide just a snapshot, a visual snapshot of what our ecosystem of service looks like as an organization. So being sensitive to some folks who might not be able to manipulate their Zoom quite quickly or haven't adjusted to the technology, I'll walk you around the circle. So at the center of all our work, again, is that inspiring career confidence. Part of that is definitely being an equitable organization. So we focus on academics at the top. We focus on equity, and that equity you'll hear a little bit about making sure that students of colors and girls see themselves in the future, that they see themselves in curriculum, and that they know the stories that include them as inventors, creators. So we want to make sure that that is at the forefront, especially today as we deal with social unrest, as we try to rebuild what we need to do to make sure that all of our students are being served equitably. Workforce. Workforce has always been a center focal point for FAME, and we're doing so much more today to make sure that we connect talent to opportunities as we move forward. Innovation. You heard Senator Lockman and certainly Representative Chikwocha talk about our location. We feel that a part of our innovation rests in what we will do at the Learning Lab, bringing forward great tools to the state of Delaware like Tallo. You hear a little bit more about that. And then, certainly making sure that we're doing all that we can do to address some of the academic deserts that rest in the community as well. So it's now time for me to introduce our board chair. I have the great pleasure of having Mr. Stephen Wing as a friend and an ally, and certainly someone that has been very instrumental in the growth of Forum to Advance Minorities in Engineering. So without further delay, I'd like to introduce Mr. Stephen Wing.
Thank you, Don. First and foremost, I want to thank all the legislators and the Black Caucus for the opportunity for FAME to not only share the programs and the innovation, but truly the behind the thought leadership and the vision behind what Don just recently introduced, which is a concept and a vision that is just it's a powerful part of the FAME overall vision, which is inspiring career confidence. As current board chair and resident of Delaware for over 45 years, FAME has been part of my family. I was not a student of FAME, but my sister was. So, Ms. Lockman, I definitely fall in that area. But extended network, changing the educational paradigm, and FAME is right in the center of that. Opportunities for upward economic mobility for African Americans, Latino residents of the state of Delaware, as we know, limited. Economic imbalances, equitable educational achievement, fragmented interventions, they all contribute to the limited access of opportunities. For example, across all indicators, people of color living in the city of Wilmington are among the greatest at risk. I'll repeat that. Across all indicators, people of color living in the city of Wilmington are among the greatest at risk. 33% of African Americans and 31% of Latinos are living with zero net worth. Over 35% of Latinos, 14% of African Americans do not have a high school diploma. Over 25% of African American and Latino families are living in poverty. Inequity. Where we live plays a major role in our ability to have upward and equitable economic mobility. Now, COVID-19, the pandemic has amplified the problems facing people of color and the poor. US Bureau of Labor Statistics clearly shows how education impacts median household income in the United States. And I'd like to give you a few examples that have existed for far too many years. I think everyone on the call and online have probably heard some of these statistics at some point. Without a high school diploma, the average household income is slightly over $25,000. With a high school diploma, $35,000. Some college degree, a little over $38,000. With an associate's degree, $41,000. With a bachelor's degree, $59,000. As educational levels increase, unemployment for individuals in that category decrease. I say again, inequity. According to the University of Delaware's Institute for Public Administration's report on child poverty, poverty is a dominant force that limits educational achievement in students. Poverty also has a significant effect on brain development and educational trajectory. Children living in poverty experience a persistent gap in learning and academic achievement. Furthermore, according to the 2015 Smarter Balance Assessment, nearly 75% of Wilmington students fail to meet state standards in English, language arts, and 84% in mathematics. Educational achievement, poverty rate, and economic stability are obviously highly correlated. The pandemic today has greatly interrupted Delaware's education and opportunity system, early education through post-secondary, including vital out-of-school support for underserved and vulnerable communities. Many of us, whether it's our children, family members, are currently experiencing variations of that support system and how the pandemic has interrupted. Both students and households with and without access to technology statewide have lost valuable hours of instructor-led learning. However, households and students with greater economic means have invested heavily in tutors, digital systems, which you'll hear more about, but digital systems developed to mitigate academic losses. I say again, inequity. So where does this all leave students and households with less or no means to invest in tutoring or academic support? Nationally, over the past 30 years, the academic achievement gap between students from high and low income families has grown to over 40%. Today, in the post-COVID world, the academic achievement gap is expected to increase. The breakout of academic achievement data by race or ethnicity through the National Assessment of Educational Progress is even more concerning. Delaware students in 8th grade scored very differently on their mathematics, reading, and science assessments based on race and ethnicity. In Delaware, African American students scored a respective 27, 24, and 32 points less than their Caucasian peers in mathematics, reading, and science. Disparities are also similar for Latino students. The challenges. These challenges have plagued people of color and poor Delawareans for far too long. Now is the time to invest in strategies that advance change. Now, as our school districts seek to partner and find new paths related to COVID, moving forward, we must pivot and change the way we educate develop talent, and empower people of color and the most vulnerable among us. So in closing, I invite you to not only support FAME, but to become part of the movement enacting sustainable support systems that embrace new, innovative solutions. Let's all be in on equity. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much, Don and Mr. Wing, and just for your leadership during these challenging times. I think your feedback gives us a lot of hope and optimism for the future, for sure. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back a little bit, and we're gonna try to shoot this video and introduce you to our students.
Can everybody see that?
You're broken down now. I promise to be a solution by being the incredible and intelligent FAME student that I am, by entering a STEM career such as aerospace engineering, and by inspiring every young person of color that they can be whoever they want to be in the career world. We can all change the world. We gonna walk it out. I'll be the solution by getting everyone to vote. I will be the solution by becoming president.
I promise to be the solution for change to climate change by advocating for clean energy and one day developing technology for it.
I'll be the solution by cleaning my neighborhood and recycling.
I will be the solution to change by inspiring future minorities to pursue even higher and greater levels of education and positions in the workplace.
I am the solution to help educate the next generation of scientists and engineers.
I am the solution to visual disability because I will help provide people with cane service animals and what they need to do their daily deeds. I am part of the solution because I want to help the homeless people. I am the solution to social injustices.
I am the solution to sexual injustice. I will try my best to spot injustices in my school. Also, I will stop sexist people around me from creating an environment that causes injustice toward boys for girls.
I promise to be a solution of change to prejudice by making my peers aware of their unconscious biases.
I will be the solution by calling out racism when it happens, and by believing my students when they tell me it happens.
I'll be a solution to change by volunteering to help people register to vote in communities that typically have low voter turnout.
I am the solution to equalizing education. As Sonia Samir says, until we have equality in education, we don't have an equal community.
I am the solution because I graduated from African High School. I'm going to George Mason University and I'm studying applied computer science.
I am the solution. I graduated from Mount Pleasant High School and I will be attending the University of Delaware in the fall for athletic training.
And I am the solution because I graduated from William Penn High School and I will be attending Spelman College as a health science major. And I'm the solution because I graduated from African High School and I'm going to Delaware State University and I will be majoring in biology with a concentration in health sciences and a minor in chemistry. I am the solution because I graduated from William Penn High School. I'm going to Howard University and I'm studying biology.
Thank you, Joanna. I just want to just quickly say this, that was taped this summer in the midst of this pandemic, while those students were enrolled in academic programming via Zoom, even though they were tired of Zoom. So I just wanted to let you know that that grit and persistence and all of those things that we talk about institutionally through our school partners rest and lies in these students. And despite this horrible pandemic and some of these social issues, these students are still ready to show their greatness.
Thank you so much for that, Don. That was, it was just touching, just definitely moving for all of us. We're going to continue on here. Now we'll hear more about how FAME is supporting students and their families through a variety of different education and workforce development initiatives as we navigate these unprecedented times. Mrs. Belcher.
Good evening, all of our distinguished guests and FAME families. I see some of your familiar faces on Zoom. My name is Lakia Belcher. I'm the Director of Education and Strategic Outreach here at FAME. And my responsibility is to oversee all of the academic programs, as well as partner with Joanna, who you hear from a few minutes from now, in our workforce academics. I want to start with our core, our flagship program. We are educating our students from grades 7 through 12 with over 220 hours of additional academic rigor. They're also exposed to our corporate partners with field trips where they go and they visit industry and learn about careers and start to get exposed into what the future could potentially look like for all of our students. We also this summer decided that FAME could be at the forefront of making sure that our students are elevated when they're ready to go back to school. Our statewide tutoring program now already has over 20 students enrolled, and the plan is to roll it out so that students and families can get the additional support from certified teachers or certified tutors across the board. We'll be helping students with academic support from grades K all the way through 12th in the core content areas, as well as working on some social skills. We'll also be bridging the gap and working with our students with Stimulate Change. This was our second baby in making sure that not only are we rolling out academics for our 7th graders, but we're also now reaching back all the way down to kindergarten with our certified curriculum. We're working with our educators in the state of Delaware to put together curriculum that is academic and core content aligned. We're highlighting global and American icons, and we're making sure that students are able to see themselves in the academics that they're going through in their home schools. We're also bridging the gap with our STEM curriculum. It's hard to be something that you've never seen. So we make sure that our students are engaged in culturally relevant, again, Common Core, hands-on curriculum, where we put curriculum in the hands of teachers and families, where students can go through and learn how to build a bridge. They can work with small machines. Everything is geared so that they can use things around their house and they can build and they can begin to explore and ignite their brains in order to become what they've never imagined. It is important that our students, again, like we said, see themselves in their curriculum and they're able to begin to imagine what their future holds. A lot of what we do in partnership with over 50 teachers, and majority of them are minority educators, where they're able to come into the FAME classroom and get outside the box of the curriculum that they have at their home schools, and again, begin to imagine and ignite our students in a way that they can't do in their home schools. They get re-energized and get invigorated when they're with our FAME students because their minds are so brilliant. We think it's important that our teachers not only have an opportunity to explore, but also with all of our students. The next steps after they finish in the core program is they go on, hopefully, to the workforce. And I'll turn it over to Joanna.
Good evening. I want to thank everybody again for participating tonight, taking some time out in this lovely evening. And I love that there's so many people online learning about FAME and how we're in on equity. And my name is Joanna Steib. I am the Director of Workforce and Talent Engagement here at FAME. Tonight, I really want to focus on the workforce piece of my job. And what does that mean to FAME? How are we creating initiatives or programs that are building the skills in Delaware residents and creating a workforce pipeline for our business partners? You see how we do it with our younger students, but again, we all know that not everybody goes on to a college career. So we need to make sure that those individuals are connected to the opportunities that are here in Delaware. Everything that we do in workforce, it falls under what we call AIM 302. So what is that? So AIM 302 is aligning meaningful employment for Delaware residents. Through this initiative, we're working with our business partners and we're developing a robust and diverse pipeline. We're also building an ecosystem that builds foundational skills, or what we like to call essential skills. We're connecting talent to opportunity, and we do that both virtually and physically. We're aligning jobs and skill training and education and other services to an individual's strengths and interests. We're providing resources to all career seekers here in Delaware, and we're providing a means for our Delaware businesses to achieve their short and long-term workforce needs. So how are we doing all of that? So in everything that I do here in FAME, I always ask myself 3 major questions. How am I working for individuals here in Delaware that are unemployed or underemployed? What am I doing to find or build opportunities for our Delaware residents? And how are we doing that, or how am I doing that in a way that's scalable, but also, most importantly, equitable? So I sort of look at all of my initiatives that we're working on here in 3 buckets. So in terms of skills gaps, we do work with a lot of industry here at FAME. We've got a lot of amazing partners. So we work with those industry and those educational institutes to identify skill gaps in today's workforce. So we look at both hard skills, but we also really look for those foundational or essential skills that everybody needs to be a successful employee. Everybody hears that term, soft skills. We know that today the jobs are changing rapidly. COVID has just took us all for a sort of a turn, and we want to make sure that we're talking to our industry, identifying the skills that are necessary for the jobs of today, but most importantly, we need to think about what skills are necessary for the jobs of the future. Everybody talks about teamwork, communication, and what everybody needed within the last 6 months, adaptability. So everything that we do is looking at the skills gaps that we have in terms of our industry partners. But just as importantly, we need to take what we learn with our industry partners and translate that to our individuals, to our residents here at Delaware. And how can they acquire skills? How can we work with our residents, both school age, as you heard with Lakia, from K to 12, but beyond? We want to make sure that we're not leaving anybody behind that's not going on to that college career. We want to work with them, but we also want to assess them, look at their strengths, look at their interests, and align them to the proper workforce development program. That could be in-house, or we could work with a partner and align them to a workforce development program, or just align them to their proper career or college pathway. And we do that with leading edge technology, which again goes back to one of my questions. That allows us and our work to be scalable. So when we're talking about skills, I'm really thinking about skilling, upskilling, or reskilling somebody. So we are providing opportunities to do all of that. So again, we look at an individual academically, we look at their career assessment, we look at where they are in terms of their skills, and we want to make sure that everything that we do is aligning them with the right program. We do this again with support from our partners. So we do like to create opportunities for interaction. We create programming here at FAME that allows people to get the skills necessary for industry. And we do that all while supporting an individual and making sure that they're achieving career success. Most importantly here at FAME, we want to make sure whatever training program that we put in place, or maybe that we partner with, it ends up in an industry recognized certification. So again, we work with those industries to build programs that are relevant to Delaware's top industries. And we always want to make sure that it leads to some kind of certification. As you can see from the slide that we're showing now, this is just a handful of the certifications that we now can offer individuals of Delaware. So as long as you, if you're going through one of our programs, we're going to make sure that you either get our 21st century success skills, which is our essential or our foundational skills. We can do accounting. So there's just a wide variety of areas that we can now certify individuals in. And again, we are able to accomplish all of this because we are using leading edge technology, which again levels that playing field for all of our Delaware residents and allows all of our programming to be scalable. So thank you again for listening to me about workforce.
So thank you, Joanna. As I listen to my colleagues, it makes me smile, even though I wasn't smiling. I got a message to smile. I get so wrapped up and intertwined into the work itself. But I have to say this to everyone. We are not the same old FAME that you may have remembered. And I think it's critical that you really understand that. We love our history, but in order to serve those individuals that need us the most, we had to transform. So I wanted to make that very clear and evident to everyone. We love what we were, but we are so excited about where we're going. And that excitement brings us to the real major project that we're working on, in addition to all the other things that we are doing for people and students and learners. We have a new home. We believe in ownership. And in order for us to tout empowerment, we want to be able to stand on our own too as an institution. And the Learning Lab, our home at 2005 Bannert Boulevard, has so much promise for the students that we currently serve and so much promise for the individuals that we know will land in this learning lab. So please be paying attention to your mail and certainly to your email. We are in the midst of a capital campaign, once again, that is being led by my team and Cam Yorkston, who is working tirelessly to make sure that not only our legislators, but our community of corporations, our school community are aware of what's going to happen in this space. We will have a career confidence center in this space, as well as real live labs that will allow us to take individuals from the greater community and show them things, invention. I see one of the names who is in attendance tonight, and that's Nicole Homer. Her husband is a great inventor, a great thinker, and we've tapped into so many other great thinkers that we want to make sure that there is a space for students and for adult learners to dream, to invent, to create, to upskill, to reskill. We know that our community needs this kind of change. We know that we deserve this kind of change. So you'll be hearing more about the capital campaign for the Learning Lab. We're excited. We hope you're excited. And certainly as things become more normal, we invite all of you to come visit, drive by, learn about what we're doing. I believe we're moving to the next slide. So innovation, this is exciting. I know a lot of people say that unfortunately, due to some of the inequities, we don't have a lot of females and people of color in the innovation space. We're going to change this together. There was a question that was sent to us in advance of tonight, and it was a gentleman who identified himself as Caucasian, as Republican, and from downstate. And his question was, how do I play a role and how do I help? And I think he made the first step, which was getting on this call and getting involved and being a voice. We're making steps, and we want people, regardless of political affiliation, regardless of race, to understand that this is an American challenge. And now is the time for us to address this American challenge. But we are addressing it wisely. We are addressing it through innovative technology. So what you see on the screen is a tool that FAME brought to Delaware. It's called Tallo. And quite simply, we knew that as Delaware's education system was looking for a solution to connect students, talent, to opportunities, workforce, internships, jobs, career, college, they didn't have a platform or a bridge. So FAME, in partnership with our educational system, we brought this tool. We are offering this tool to users, that would be students and individuals over the age of 13, to create a profile so that they can connect themselves to the opportunities that exist. So as Mr. Wing said, in on equity, we are in on equity to the macro degree, because without having exposure to career opportunities, to scholarship opportunities, to certainly to programmatic opportunities, we are leaving way too many people behind. And tools like Tallo are certainly tools that are going to be helpful to create that bridge, to allow these youth, to allow these adult learners who are either reskilling or upskilling to have access. And access is what it's all about, is making sure that we create access. I know we're going to have some Q&A. We want to have folks to be able to learn about some of the things that maybe some legislators are doing, to ask questions. So we're gonna pivot. Systems change quickly is something that I think is unnecessary. I know we have senators and representatives and legislators who have very quickly through this caucus put some some language and legislation to the table to make sure systems change happens. Systems change is ground level and certainly upswell. And we hope that academically, that educationally, we start looking at things like curricular deserts. There are spaces and places in this state that have access to things like agriculture through their pathway that certainly some students in more urban areas don't have access to. And we feel that is something that has to change. We feel that curriculum showing the faces and the contributions of women and people of color have to be at the forefront of this change, of these systems change. Paradigm shifts, global earthquake moving shifts have to happen. And one that I will mention that's going on now is a movement in partnership with the United Way and certainly many others. We are looking at racial equity and social justice in a way that it has not been done in quite some time in this state. So my colleague, I don't know if Michelle Taylor is on the phone or on this call, but I wanted to give certainly a shout out to Michelle and the work that we're doing, Rick Detweiler with Corteva and many of you in this community. We feel this is the time for dramatic change. The last thing that I will say in systems change before we get to the questions segment is that FAME is looking to very seriously launch a Destinations Career Academy in the state of Delaware. You will hear more about this. We are excited. We are going to be partnering with a national vendor to make sure that any student anywhere in this state, as well as any learner, adult, will have an opportunity to get to curriculum, to advance them, to expedite their education, and certainly to provide them with skills that allow them to reach their destination in terms of a job or a career. So we're excited about that. Please stay tuned. Thank you.
Awesome. How can you not be enthused about this, right? Just watching the leader, watching Don explain all these wonderful things happening at FAME. You know, there's a saying, you know, in adversity lies opportunity. I truly feel that FAME has an opportunity has a real chance of being the bridge to so much great opportunity for so many in our community. So thank you so much for that, Don. Right now, what we'll do is we'll transition to a Q&A session. So feel free to submit your questions. They'll come to me and then I'll ask them.
Stephen, while you're doing that, I want to give a quick shout out and a thank you to our partners from Boeing. Michelle Hingy, I believe, is on this call. Thank you. Our partners from DuPont. Hello, everyone. I think I saw Jan. I think I saw Pat and all the many other supporters, Corteva. Our corporations in this state of Delaware are great. Our school districts, we are looking forward to working with you and helping you through this crisis and this critical time.
Thanks for that, Don. And for those who are interested in asking questions, please submit them into the chat. Thank you.
And I wanted to do a shout out too. Can I do a shout out real quick? I see a lot of wonderful familiar faces here tonight, but I did want to call out one since we're here to talk about equity and being in on equity. So I'm going to call you out, James Simmons, who is our Chief Equity Officer for the state of Delaware's Department of Education. I want to make sure if folks, you know, to the extent that you already know him or not, to make sure that you do know him, because that's a new wrinkle on the Office of Innovation. It was once the Office of Innovation and Improvement. Now it's the Office of Innovation and Equity, or Equity and Innovation. So I'm happy to see you, and it's obviously a very relevant synergy in there as well. So I just want to make sure I called him out. Hi, Jim.
Awesome. Welcome, Jim. Welcome, Jim. So one question is for state legislators. How are legislators working toward equity?
I'm happy to start. I'm sure we all have our different ways of looking at that. I mean, I'll start with the thing that I think really drove me in the education space to even end up in Dover. And that was coming from a place as an education advocate. And I think a lot of legislators, when you first get there, you think about what is the thing that you really, you know, want to do what's your great white whale. And for me, it was finding more equity in our public education system. Really, K-12 is where I probably am the most oriented. And so Representative Nnamdi Chukwucha, my co-chair tonight, and I sat down and talked about some of the things we'd seen, particularly in the areas we represent in the city of Wilmington, and how to get to the bottom of it. So we just, we worked together and we formed what is known as the Reading Consortium for Educational Equity. It's actually a meeting going on simultaneously right now for a work group that Representative Chukwucha co-chairs. Sorry. We always have something going on. And anyway, so that group is tasked with looking at a lot of macro issues, whether it's governance, whether it's funding, which is so key, and also, you know, wraparounds and supports, educator training and things like that. Sorry about my dog. Molly is a very enthusiastic animal. But so that's one thing that we do, but we're also doing a number of other things flowing from like our Justice for All agenda that are looking at equity for Black and Brown and really all Delawareans. Because we believe that if we pay attention to our most vulnerable and long time left behind, it'll be beneficial for all Delawareans. But I don't know, Representative Chukwucha, do you want to talk about the African American Task Force?
Yes, as a part of, as Senator Lockman mentioned, the Justice for All agenda, two of the big components from that, Representative Frank Cook, who's on the call, is leading our law enforcement task force. And then we have our African American task force in partnership with Delaware State University. And each of the members of the Delaware Legislative Black Caucus are either chairing or co-chairing one of the subcommittees. And I myself, I'm leading the subcommittee geared towards social justice and criminal and community violence. So we're gathering our membership, and I know, I'm not sure if Representative Dorsey Walker is on the call. Her subcommittee had their first meeting this evening, so I know she was going to be late joining, but her subcommittee is dealing with economics, the economic development of African Americans. And then we have Representative Minor Brown and Kendra Johnson are leading the Health Task Force, Health and Disparities Task Force. And Senator Lockman is
Infrastructure and environment. So all you engineers and environmentally oriented people, please come, you know, send your names my way. We're still forming the subcommittee actually. So yeah, really excited.
So those subcommittees are really great working groups for our overall task force. And the subcommittees are charged with coming up with legislative recommendations to present to the full body. And it is our goal and our objectives to have legislation come out of the task force that will have ready to present come January.
Very good. Thank you for that feedback. A lot of exciting things happening. Any other legislators wanted to weigh in?
Yes, this is Representative Frank Cook. I'm the chair of the Law Enforcement Task Force, and I'm gonna give a shout out to Michelle Taylor. She's right on point, and using her from United Way and all the other advocates that are in our subcommittees. We have 4 subcommittees: use of force, workforce development, which you all come into. We're really using you all and Noble, all the different police departments and all their training. Community policing and engagement, which Michelle Taylor is the chair of, and her meeting is coming up soon. And our transparency and accountability. So, you know, with this coming through our Black Caucus for Justice for All, we've had our first meeting yesterday dealing with transparency and accountability, and it went fairly well. It went real well. Like I said, we have other subcommittee meetings coming up. There's one there, like they said, with the African American task force that's going on right now, or maybe it might be ending. And we look forward to working with FAME and hoping that, you know, we can continue on with this this very, very important task force, especially for the state of Delaware, which we are leading the way, if you know it or not, with the whole United States. We're one of the only legislators that are working through the summer or while legislation is off in many states throughout the nation. And, you know, it can't be done without these advocates and other committees that have task force as the United Way. And we're using a lot of their folks with Ricky Detweiler, but most of all, you know, Michelle Taylor is leading the way on a big thing when it comes to community policing and engagement, which is very, very important right now with the climate that is going on in the United States. So, you know, we're working and like I told Michelle, we're looking for positivity and moving forward, not getting stuck. And we need everyone. When I say justice for all, Black, brown, white, green, polka dot, we need everyone. And that's what we're trying to achieve. So, you know, I look at a lot of faces here with some big people, but that's not just talk it, let's walk it. That's what's important. A lot of times there's a lot of people just talk the talk, but don't walk the walk and let the rubber meet the road. And I think looking at this here at Fame, I remember in 1976, I was a little jealous because I didn't get into Fame. I just went straight to college. But my cousins and stuff were in Fame, and I'm looking forward to looking at this whole agenda and this whole process of what we're trying to do. And it is important for the city of Wilmington, I'm gonna tell you. And also we cannot live out Southern Delaware down in Sussex County. Boy, I tell you, we just got rid of a whipping post and we need all we can get down at Southern Sussex County. It's very, very important for Black and brown. I'm just being truthful and transparent. But you know, again, I gotta thank folks like Miss Taylor, bad lady, I'm gonna tell you, she knows what she's doing. So I wanna thank her for that.
Thanks, Rep Cook. Thank you so much for that. I know Representative Brown wanted to say something. Representative Monica Brown.
Mute myself. Well, first, let me just thank you guys for everything that you're doing. Representative Cook pretty much took the words out of my mouth. And as a nurse, everybody knows that my specialty is healthcare. And as the chair of the Social Determinants of Health Work Group under the DHMIC, we've been looking at coming up with priorities to address the healthcare disparities in our state. They're pretty obvious, they do exist. And they're very recognizable. They just have gone untouched for far too long. One of the priorities that we came up with was housing, because housing insecurity severely impacts not only a person's health, but your ability to be successful in education, and your ability to maintain a job and so on and so forth, because everyone understands that your environment you can absorb the environment that you live in. And if you don't have access to quality healthcare, healthy foods, clean water, clean air, safe, stable housing, then it's really hard to move forward beyond that. So we did come up with a plan for addressing the housing disparities. It's a pilot program that we have been watching in Ohio. I'm not going to speak too much on it because you're going to actually see it in a few weeks. But we really want to address the housing disparities right here in our state, especially when we talk about the maternal health crisis in our state as well, and how all of that impacts everything that we're talking about here. So stay tuned. It's some good stuff is coming out of the Social Determinants of Health Work Group in reference to closing these gaps in healthcare, especially in our most impoverished areas of our state.
Thank you for that, Representative. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much. We have another a question, and this may be the last question as we'll be closing soon. But this question is for Fame board member Alvin Boardley, and the question goes like this: we have, for the first time in history, to reset our educational priorities for our minority, Black and brown students. Because of COVID-19, we and our children are all sort of now on the same playing field. What are some of the legislative initiatives the Delaware Legislative Black Caucus will do to help place our minority students starting up front and never behind again? And how can you support Fame in this initiative?
I just want to give someone else a chance to go first. I feel I always do. Well, again, I mean, I think our initiatives, we have this very rare opportunity, I think, to reset and to really reassess. I mean, I still think we have a lot to reckon with in terms of the history of the policies that have gotten us here, to really feel like we are at a level place to build on with the strength that we know we can have. So I think a lot of the efforts that you've heard us describe are really have been focused on the disparities, how we got to this place of disparity so we can fill those in. But in terms of how we then move forward, I think it does have a lot to do with resources, of course. I mean, that's one of the priorities of the Reading Consortium, is to look at the way that we resource our educational institutions. For me, my mind always goes to K-12, but that there's a whole, sort of early childhood through to higher education. And then of course, we've talked about training beyond higher ed, right? Or even alternatives to higher ed, that all need resourcing in order to ensure success for folks from all walks of life. So we are really digging into that as a consortium. What kind of resources do we need for our existing institutions, but also what are we doing to support, efforts that are parallel and partnered and cooperative and private that also are doing this good work, and rather than relying solely on some of those institutions. So we are, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to following the money and putting it where our mouths are to make sure that we can have all of these wonderful programs be the best that they can be. And, we fill in those policy gaps, but then we build on top of them by supporting excellent organizations to do the work of seeking the future. So that's how I see it anyway. Someone else want to offer? I think not.
Yeah, I would just add that, as was mentioned earlier about the statewide approach and realizing that, we're going from end to end, from Claymont to Delmar, to really focus on the issues and disparities that impact our communities, to build alliances in every county, to realize is that a lot of the focus is often paid here in Newcastle County, especially with the majority of all of our caucus is pretty much from Newcastle County, but from Wilmington and Newcastle County, but to realize that our impact and our, I guess, a part of our caucus without being memberships are downstate. So we represent them as well. And it's very important for us to realize that our voices and the issues that from Kent and Sussex are a part of our issues. And the more we galvanize, we speak so much about educational equity, and our fight here in Wilmington, it's deep in our hearts. And we know how the failure of the education system is impacting the everyday life. I just had a double shooting last night in my district where a 25-year-old was murdered and one was shot. And it's been every night in my city. And we know that disparity, we know how that's related and tied to education. They have different issues downstate as far as housing issues that are very similar, but also challenging. They have issues dealing with transportation, but these have to be united issues where we stand together and realize that it's going to take a support and alliance and collaborations with nonprofit organizations in order to meet these gaps. So having organizations and partnerships such as FAME allow us to share that growth, to share this focus and show that it's not just Newcastle County, but again, it's statewide. And I think that's how we begin to address the equity issues throughout the state.
I'd like to see that we collaborate and make sure the stakeholders in the state, like on the Route 9 corridor, they are, they're involved, and you hold them accountable to be involved. That's another thing too. I know Nikisha Bailey is on here, does a great job of getting an HR down at Dot Foods. I've seen her put out a lot of things to get people out there to fill out applications. And one thing we got to look at, filling out applications and learn how to do skill work and stuff like that is very important, because like you said in the beginning, everybody doesn't have to go to college. Everybody's not about college. It's about skill work. And that's very important. And also that you hold all these other unions and stuff with apprenticeship. You can be a part of that. That's why collaboration is so important. And we have to look at that. And I know that we're working toward that. And I know that I look at it when I see the chamber, the county chamber, the Delaware State Chamber. I'm gonna call it like I see it. And I've had talkings with their CEOs. It's not diverse. Sorry, I'm gonna be real. It's not. But we gotta work towards making sure that people that look like me, look like you, brown, black, are involved. Women, men involved with the chambers, also involved with the Delaware Contractors Association, is not diverse. I have a talk with Mr. Short, who's the CEO of that right now, and we got to start getting people involved. And it's very, very important. very important, up and down the state, because they're not. Because I've been there and seen the meetings, and I look around like, wow, where are they? We got to hold these folks accountable. I know I tried to up and down the Route 9 corridor to all the businesses on this Route 9, including down to Port of Wilmington, to the restaurant store, all the way up to up to Delaware City. So it's very, very important that we collaborate together and work together, but hold them accountable. Be there at these meetings and don't run out of gas. Got to keep on going. I know it's hard, but we got to keep on going.
Thank you for that, Rep. Cook. I agree. We need equity across the board, across the state. Rep. Minor Brown.
You know, I just want to say, I think it's also important that, you know, we really think about how policies have impacted certain communities. So the first thing that we need to do, and especially us as legislators, but also the community and the organizations behind us that need to be there as support, to first just put a stop to this, you know, to speak on it. No longer can we do business as usual. We know what got us here, but we have to speak up and be intentional about our purpose. So for instance, we just had a conversation today in our caucus call. There are students that still don't have laptops, but they're supposed to be virtually learning. There are multi-children households that have one laptop for 3 children to somehow have virtual learning from 8 to 3. I don't even know where that's possible. It's not possible, but what it is unacceptable. And the fact that we allowed that to happen, when we see grants coming out for this, grants coming out for that, but we are not making these children's education a priority, that's a problem. And we can't sit here and have the conversation and then just go on business as usual, like, oh yeah, those kids don't have their laptops. Next time, we'll talk about something else now. It's unacceptable. It has to stop. So those are the things we really have to talk about, and we have to be intentional. Also, there's a piece of legislation that you guys will see coming up the pike. It's called Health in All Policies. This is my baby. Because like I said before, how policies can severely impact certain communities, and that is what got us here now. So with Health in All Policies, it mandates that every piece of legislation that we present, we have to look at it and see how it's going to impact the community, because there's so many times when a piece of legislation will come up and it'll look so great, but it'll hinder a community that's already struggling, and it'll uplift a community that's already in a great space. We can't continue to do that. And what happens is you don't notice it until a few years down the line, and you're like, wow, look how that new plant, or look how that new business or whatever has really disenfranchised this area over here. You know, and at that point now everyone's sick and people aren't getting getting their healthcare needs taken care of, and the schools are closing down and they're not being revitalized and reopened. But we see schools in other areas that are getting money every year, and they're staying afloat. That's a problem. And we have a bunch of vacant buildings. That's a problem. So we really have to make sure that every piece of legislation that comes forward, that we look at it and see how it's going to impact every community. And if it's going to hinder a community, then we need not look again. It needs to be done, or we need to figure out a way to make sure that we uplift our communities that are really struggling. And it's all about just taking a holistic approach to it and looking at how, like I said before, how every aspect of a person's life, where they eat, live, play, sleep, everything is impacted. So I think that's how we have to look at this moving forward. But I'm looking forward to working with you guys and just leading this charge. Let's get it done.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for your passion and what you guys are doing in Dover, representing not even just your districts, but all districts across the state of Delaware, and making sure that equity is spread around. So I'm just so grateful for that. We don't have any time to take any more questions at this time. So once again, I'd just like to thank our co-chairs, the Delaware Legislative Black Caucus, and their staffs, along with all of you for joining us for this virtual town hall. As we close, we'd like to leave you with some beneficial information and resources to consider. One is, we like to invite you to learn more about FAME and our In on Equity campaign at www.famedelaware.org. On the website link, you'll also find a donation link. Please consider donating to the In on Equity campaign. It's a worthwhile cause, and all support is appreciated. Consider applying for academic programming today. As discussed, FAME has programs and support services for all learners, regardless of age or educational level. For learners over the age of 13, consider creating a Tallo profile. This is a great first step in your higher education and career journey, putting you on the radar for institutions and organizations that are looking for people that have your talent and skill set. Last but certainly not least, please stay tuned for the next big things by joining our mailing list at www.famedelaware.org/contact. Again, we'd like to thank all of you for joining us this evening to learn more about FAME, a great community partner, neighbor, and resource for Delaware families. We'd like to extend our well wishes to Delaware students and families for a successful school year. Please be safe and reach out to us if we can be helpful. Have a great night, everyone. And now we're going to enter into a private session with the Delaware State Legislature. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks.
Thank you.